Okay. So I guess just working out the kinks here. So yeah, so I could have like totally dropped for free here. That like squad, like they missed like a second triple take shot, and like there was only really one person firing at me. So if they had team fired me, I would have just died for free there. So this is not good. So this is on me. And like not being attentive, throwing the dome to cover myself and protect myself. And I leave the dome here because I see the bang ult come down. The bang ult is going to wind up going off after the dome expires, and so I can't stay in that location anymore. So I have to back off. My teammates are starting to arrive on the scene. I'm going to full heal. The bang ult, like the one, I guess, saving grace of the bang ult is that it also makes it hard for the enemy to push because they have to wait it out. Our teammate gets separated from us, like the bang ult is between us and them now, which is not good. So those two situations, I think, like the enemy squad like had openings that they just did not exercise. So that was pretty scary. So that's, I guess, like something you need to be aware of. With a 1x scout, it's kind of like a weird situation, like where I can't really use it at hipfire range, right? But like also I have to get like close enough that like I can use it like as like a from like a range that it does better than the R9. And it's probably gonna be roughly toe-to-toe with the R301. So I'm like kind of gonna have to be like playing slightly at arm's length here for a second until I can like find damage. Still need to hear comms. No, it's not mine. Gibby throws his ult. I get the full heal here. This head glitch here is like really strong, especially with the arm shield. It's really hard for people to be able to land any sort of effective damage on me. So right here, this is the part that like frustrated me. And so this is like where I got frustrated at my teammates, but it actually is most likely a situation where I needed to make a different decision. Okay, so here's what I see, right? There's one teammate or enemy over here, one enemy here, and our last one is right here. And then our teammates we have one that's like back on the tracks, like where we were, one that's like further off behind us to the right over here, that's the Wraith, right? The Wraith needs to heal right now, so they're not really ready to push super hard. Once they finish that cell though, they've got like enough to work with. This enemy over here, I think, is trying to engage the Wraith, right? So they're probably not going to be dealing with me in the near future. This person over here is running off to the left. I think it's because they're trying to support this player that's like out here on the flank, which is like what winds up happening. But right now, in this moment, this character is the one that's like the most isolated, and so we're like pretty close together. And so what I wind up doing is I wind up calling for a push on this guy because they're isolated, but I needed to like remain more. I think like that's like what winds up happening is like I'm the only one that goes over there, which indicates to me that I was not aware of something. Oh, let's see if we can get this one. Okay, yeah, so we get like free damage on them. They're broken. 26 plus 26 plus 68. What, that's like it's like 20 damage on their flesh, I think. So it's they've got 80 HP remaining. So with an isolated enemy with 80 HP remaining, like we should be aping. Like ideally, like the play I wanted to happen, that didn't, because I wanted all three of us to push this as a team, right? But then it didn't happen, which means that my teammates saw something that I didn't, or they took actions that I was not aware of, and I wasn't paying enough attention. This bloodhound's broken. Okay. And then bloodhound's broken. Lefty just called out something on Gibby. This bloodhound's broken. Did something to the Gibby? I can't really tell. So what happens? So yeah. So this was like the play that I like wanted us to make. Was I wanted us to cut across here. I dome forward to cover us from this guy that's up here, right? And then like we play around this side and just like 3v1 like this extremely weakened bloodhound, and makes this fight like way easier. Looking at where my teammates are, so our Wraith here is still committed to full healing, and so this is the thing that I probably needed to notice here. This is the important factor, was that she is like trying to full heal with cells. She's still all the way back here, right? So even if Lifty follows me, like this guy over here, he's actually now isolated, and so like now the shoe's on the other foot. So had this enemy up here been running in this direction, and this guy had seen like what we were doing, they could have just counter pushed, right? And then we would have been back in a 2v2 situation, which would not have been as favorable. What we want is like, we want just like a clean sweep of all three enemies here. So, and also now like at this point, like Lifty like needs to heal a little bit. So It's possible that like going forward here that I might be the only one that's present here instead of like all three of us, and so that was not something that I was planning on. So I take damage on my shields, and so here I elect to continue the push. The reason why is because I still have some shields and the Bloodhound shouldn't have any at this point, and like I don't want to let them have this opening here. The triple take is shooting at us from the right hand side, so I think this is like a communication issue that like I did not tell my squad that I was going to dome forward here, so they didn't know that this option was going to be available, and so they just see me cutting across open ground, and they have no idea that there's going to be cover that's going to protect them like along most of the way. So this is on me. Okay, you said cracked. Okay, so the Gibby was cracked. So then like I guess like that opens up an option. So we'll return to that in a second. So this like here, like so issue here is a communication issue. Is that like I did not tell my team that I was going to make this play, and so because they didn't know that this was going to happen, there's like no reason for them to follow me, right? And so then notice, like I should have observed that they weren't following me, right? And actually, so as soon as like Lifty starts to sell, that's like an indication to me, right, that we're not going to be able to push, because like that sell takes 2 seconds, and that is too long for us to be able to push cohesively. So I needed to be like more aware of what my teammates were doing, particularly when it comes to healing. So I need to be keeping a better eye on like what's going on down here. Lifty says here in the chat that he was calling out that Gibraltar was cracked, who was up here. So that gives us an option, right? So when an enemy's cracked and like our squad still has like some shields remaining, right? Like that is an advantage in our favor, because anytime you register damage on an enemy that's cracked, they suffer aim punch, which makes it much harder for them to be effective in hitting their shots on you. So, and like it's a much thinner margin of error to work with in general. So we basically could have chosen at this point, right? Between we went after Bloodhound, or if we went after Gibraltar up on the top. Now, if we had gone after Gibraltar, it would have been like we would have had a little bit of climbing to do to get in front of him, right? But the Bloodhound over here can't get to him, right? Because the Bloodhound is way far away on low ground. Had we pushed the Bloodhound, the Gibraltar is going to have to take some time to get over to here, be able to shoot at us, because the cover is going to obstruct his view of us. So in either situation, we're probably going to be only dealing like with this one guy that was up here that's like flexing between the 2 slots. So either one would have worked, I think. I personally would have preferred, I still personally would have preferred that we were pushing the Bloodhound, because he's on low ground. So that push is slightly less risky for us and a little bit easier. But then I think once is like right here where I needed to make a different decision, right? Because so this is like the plan that I want to happen, but the reality is like that, like we're not going to get that now because of sort of the things that my teammates are doing, and I need to be like aware of that, right? Like that's on me, because I can't go down for free here. So probably, right? I needed to notice that my teammates were still healing, still a little bit far, like a half like step behind me, a little bit too far to like make this a cohesive push, and so I needed to stop, not push this, and like start going on the Gibby instead, and support a push on the Gibby. So in that situation, I would not be like running the point of the push, and so I'm a little bit further behind. So it would be probably either the Wraith or Lifty that would be running point on the push, and then I would be following up behind them. And then we wouldn't have Dome to help cover us as we cross the tracks, but I think it's still doable. Gibby dropped to low ground. Okay, so then that's even better, right? So there was an option then on the right. We could have made a play on the right side. So I needed to recognize that it's like more realistic for us to make the play on the right side now than it is on the left, because the timer on like how vulnerable this Bloodhound is, like that window is closing very quickly, right? Like there's an amount of time before they can get off a heal that like is like our window of opportunity. And so if like this window of opportunity opened more recently, and my teammates are more prepared to take that option, then we should take that one instead. So that's on me. So the key things that happened here was I did not communicate to them that this play was available with the Dome, right? So had they known that the Dome was available, it's probably more likely that they would have followed and made this play with me. So there's that communication issue. So that's on me. There's also the Wraith, who full healed with cells. I needed to notice that, and I needed to be aware of that. And they're all the way back here, right? And I also needed to notice that our Bloodhound Lifty also was healing and using cells. And so both of those things should indicate to me that they're not going to be able to be super mobile, and they've got like some ground to cover like in order to make this push. And so I needed to be the one that turned around and went on the Gibby instead. And I needed to be more aware of the comms that my teammates were calling out. So here, like, so even though, like, so I think even at this point now that, like, we've made this error, right, of decision making when you should have gone on the right side, like, there's still, like, things that, like, we could have done better, right? So this, like, this knock on the Bloodhound, like, that's fine, not super great aim, which I'm a little bit dissatisfied with because I saw, like, a little bit of jitter on the aim. Where did this Bangalore come from? Did she... Okay, so she came around the backside here. Like that. Behind me. I did not use my gun shield in this situation to mitigate damage. I probably should have. I could have ADS'd as I, like, peeked this corner knowing that the Bloodhound's still pinned back here. Which I think would have been a perfectly reasonable option. That, or I turn around on the Bangalore to use the shield there. Yep, Bloodhound's down. Okay, and then right here, I jump because I basically have, like, nothing else left. This reload, how many shots had I fired? 3 shots. So yeah, so this is, like, actually just a bad habit of mine, which is, like, that, like, whenever I, like, kill someone, like, my instinct is to, like, reload because I don't like having my guns run dry. In this situation, I'm already taking damage, right? And so I needed to have awareness of, like, what was going on here. And so I needed, and also Lifty had called out that there was someone behind me following me. And so I needed to clear this area first before making this reload. So I basically reload out in the open, reloading my only close range option out in the open in front of these enemies for free. And so right here, this is like a free, like, 75 to 80 damage that I just give to this Bangalore instead of, like, at least plugging her once, like, with, like, the EVA 8. So that's, like, another inefficiency. And if I had actually had the presence of mind to get up my gun shield, then, like, potentially I could have gotten off 2 strong shots on her, which would have made it much easier for Lifty and even delayed her long enough for Lifty to come over so that I wouldn't get knocked. So those are the major inefficiencies there.
Why do we not take the one that's on the road?
Yeah. And then I'm toxic here because I'm pissy about, like, my poor decision making. Yeah. I think in this situation, I need to be, like, I needed to be crawling forward to provide better cover. So I, like, waffled a little bit. So the key decision points, I think, where there was space for improvement was here inside the dome, recognizing, like, what my teammates were doing and what they needed to get done, and having a better communication with them about making this push. And then later on here was efficient. These are, like, execution issues, and so being efficient here. Never spent the gun shield here, so needed to use the gun. The gun shield's a resource, right? It's like 75 free HP that I can just spend, and so I needed to spend it here on a peak, like, in a pre-aim like this. Like, I'm not going to be trying to move around, like, around all crazy, like, you know, like, I'm, like, literally just trying to take a peek and, like, trying to find a pre-aim on this Bloodhound. Very slow reactions. And then here, I reload when I shouldn't have. When I started getting shot in the back, I needed to clear the area around me first before reloading, and then hopefully spent the gun shield. And so here, I went down instead of trading for damage when I should have. So that pretty much wraps up, I think, the review segment for today.